This is Revolution Radio.
Like I said once or twice before, you need some glow sticks for that intro. Man, oh man, oh man.
I was dancing.
Welcome, friends. Welcome, one. Welcome, all. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Revolution Radio Canada, and this podcast is a thing that we call Canadian as fuck. My name is Craig G, alongside my man Dimitri Alexiou, and we've also got, of course, Derek. We'll be doing all of our introductions later on. But we have Dave Bidini with us tonight. We have a Rheostatic. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Thank you so much for joining us. Dave, we really appreciate you being here tonight, my friend.
Yeah, it's great. My pleasure. Thanks,
We've
guys.
got a lot of stuff to talk to you about, so we're going to get things going here. Dimitri, if you could do an acknowledgement, please.
Canadian as fuck would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet tonight on a virtual platform, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations, to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and cultures, and to try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
Thanks, Dimitri. Greatly appreciate it, buddy. Dimitri reached out to our friend, good friend Eric Alper, and managed to nail down this wicked new friend of Canadian AF. So, Dimitri, take it away, my friend. Let's get things going.
Yeah, he's not just a rheostatic.
Right.
He's a Renaissance man. Okay? Because the thing about Dave Bidini, and I've always been aware of this, is like he's a musician, but he's also a writer. Like when I was like 20 years old, he had a column in the Toronto Star, you know, and so he's been publishing books, and also he started a community newspaper that we're going to talk a lot about called the West End Phoenix that is celebrating its 7th anniversary. And and on October 5th they have a fundraiser at Mildred's Temple Kitchen, and at that fundraiser is Academy Award-winning screenwriter and director Sarah Polley, Hockey Hall of Famer Ken Dryden, and music by none other than Julian Taylor. And but anyway, we have a lot to talk to Dave Bidini about, but we will start off with a track by the Rheostatics, and it's somewhat appropriate because none other than Tim Vesely is the distribution manager of the West End Phoenix.
It's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you've been
his boss.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy name dropper. I love it.
Around. It's
dropping names left, right, and center. I love it, Dimitri.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to start things off with my favorite song, my favorite Rheostatic song sung by Dave Bidini, "Horses," and I guess it's so. Do you have any memories about this song?
Yeah, I do. I remember, just playing in B minor. This was just, you're learning to be a songwriter, and starting out as a songwriter, it's major chords that you're able to shape your fingers into without them hurting too much, and then a window opens and you think, there's a whole minor chord universe, and playing B minor, and I remember when the melody came, I thought it sounded like a Gordon Lightfoot song, and not even really being a Lightfoot fan at the time. And anyways, it just it really emerged fully formed out of my imagination, which is such a rare thing with a song, right? When it just kind of finds you and it lands upon you. And, the story that I'd read that day had been about, the Gainers meat packing plant strike in Edmonton, just outside of Edmonton. Gainers was owned by Peter Pocklington, who also owned the Edmonton Oilers. And it was a winter strike, and Scabs had taken over and were running that factory. In fact, the strikers they made hot dogs and processed meat at this place, and the strikers wore buttons that said "Gainers makes wieners with scabs in them," which I think is one of the greatest all-time buttons. But anyway, so I remember reading about them, striking and being outside in the cold fucking Alberta minus 25 weather around bonfires. And none of them ever got the jobs back either. So I used that that was the narrative, the story, and the B minor chord. They all landed together, and I think we rehearsed that song. Might even have been that night, or maybe even the next day. And I remember playing it for the guys, and anyways, everybody was so excited and loved it. And yeah,
and it wasn't too far into Joe Bowen's career.
No, it wasn't. But I think I've talked to Bonesy a little bit about that, but I'm pretty sure my inspiration for the chorus was the actual, because the Tie Cats. That Tie Cat chant is a real,
Oski Wee Wee?
Yeah. Holy Mackinac Tiger Cats eat 'em raw. It's a very working class, chant, right? And, I was writing about, the narrative from the workers' perspective. So I thought that kind of fit in. And I often wonder whether it was Bonesy's call, but I don't really think it was, guys.
Interesting.
And we have actually asked, we've wondered of each other, who came first. I'm sure he did, but I don't think his call had taken on sort of the popularity at that time as it has since.
There you have it, people.
That's the story, man.
Not even Wicked. Dave Bidini knows.
No. I have my own song. I don't even know.
We are Canadian as fuck on Revolution Radio, and we have with us tonight a very awesome Renaissance man, Dave Bidini, musician, writer, filmmaker, and publisher of community magazine West End Phoenix that is celebrating its 7th anniversary this week. And you can celebrate with them on Thursday night at Mildred's Temple Kitchen in Toronto. So as I said earlier, also there that night is Sarah Polly, Ken Dryden, Julian Taylor providing music, and the whole thing is emceed by the man we have with us tonight, Dave Bidini. What? Oh, go ahead.
I feel a bit of a follow-up story to that song, if you don't mind.
Please do.
That same apartment where I wrote that song, I was supposed to be interviewing Neil Peart from Rush for SoCan magazine, and I'd forgotten about the interview. And it was Sunday morning, and the phone rang, and I answered it, and it said it's Neil Peart it's calling from the Chateau Frontenac in Quebec City. I kind of pulled it together, and we had a conversation. I got my crude tape recorder set up, and at the end of the interview, I said to him, "Are there any bands you're listening to that you really like?" And he said, "Yeah, there's this one band I really like from Etobicoke called the Rheostatics. Have you ever heard of them?" I was like, "I'm in them." He was like, "What?" So we had this conversation, but he told me about how he was trying to lay a drum track down for a Rush song in their new recordings. They were working on a record, and he kept fucking up the drum piece because that song kept going through his head, and he was like, "Damn it!" So he really he broke down the lyrics to me, but he also told me that on that tour, he would walk out of the arena into his boxing silks, and he would go onto the bus, and he would go to the back of the bus, and he would sit in the back of the bus, and he would play horses at 10 out of 10 volume, and just let the whole show, the experience of the show, just drip away from him, and he would that was his decompression song for that tour. So those guys were such heroes of mine, and to hear that was incredible.
That's got to be an awesome thing to find out about.
It was.
If I may just interject here really quickly, Dimitri. So I was telling Dave the beginning of the program, I used to work at CFNY back in the 2000s, and I used to produce for Dave Bookman. And I know that you know Bookie very, very well. And one of the things that there was two bands that we would play at the Edge from time to time that weren't in regular rotation, but Bookie would put in as often as he possibly could. One was Wilco, and the other one was Rheostatics. And every time he would ask me to play anything from you guys, he would literally stand up and do like his Bookie bounce kind of thing behind the computer, and he'd just dance in the entire, for the entire song and sing all the lyrics at the top of his lungs. Anyways, he adored you guys. So,
well, likewise, we met each other for the first time at the Hotel Isabella, I think in like 1986, and then we ended up going out to the Independent Music Festival in Calgary in 1987, and we were out in Vancouver together. We were all there for the first time, a bunch of bands, and we actually did a radio show together on CIUT called High and Outside. It was a sports music show, and yeah, that was booked the first time Dave was really on the radio. He'd done some college radio work together. He'd done some college radio work in Ottawa when he went to school there, but this was his first kind of legit show, and we basically just kind of took what we talked about on the couch, and they let us put it out on the radio. I had to go on tour, and so Bookman started "Don't Look Back" at CIUT, and then he went to The Edge, and the rest is history. But yeah, we were right there together throughout our awakening into music and our lives in music and stuff. So I miss him every day. I really do.
Yeah, we all do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you guys did the new music night quite a number of times, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe we did. I don't think we ever did new music. Well, we dropped in. I think we were working in. Don Kerr was our second drummer, and I think we did a show which we played a bunch of new material. But I remember we did an Elma Combo thing with the Tea Party and Colin Linden, and Bookman came up on stage. He drove a small Toyota that was filled with cassettes. Like, you couldn't see out the windows. Like, there were cassettes everywhere. Anyways, he decided it was unhealthy to have so many cassettes. So he brought 2 garbage bags filled with them to the Elmo on stage that night, and then was throwing cassettes out into the crowd to people. Now, like, some of them were flying apart, so people were like getting hit in the eye.
That's unhealthy.
That's unhealthy, yeah.
That's rock and roll. It's rock and
Bookie thought it was a great idea. He got rid of the cassettes, but I think he took out an eye here and there.
Fantastic. Good for you, Bookie.
Yeah.
So later on tonight, we have an interview with a band called Eclecticus, and they just chimed in on the Twitch chat. We saw Rheos a few times at Horseshoe. The fave concert was at Massey Hall when the power went out, and Martin sang unamplified and everyone was unplugged. It was amazing. Do you have any remembrance of that?
Yeah. Now, the power, well, so his pedals were vexing him the whole night. So that was just like, we called an audible. We were like, let's just like unplug our stuff and sit on this, because you can do that at Massey Hall, right? Sit on the edge of the stage, and we sang Northern Wish. Yeah, I do remember that clearly. It kind of saved the show, honestly, because he was having so many issues with his pedals, and at the end of the day, you just kind of strip it back and just do it, in an intimate, just naked way. And I thought it ended up being great.
Yeah,
nice.
I fell in love with you guys at another roadside attraction.
Yeah, those are fun shows too.
Would you maybe have a Downey memory you could share?
So many, really. I remember we sang the Summer Side of Life with them to close. I think that was the Molson Park. I think another roadside attraction was at Molson Park, and I remember, just looking at him. I was on the left side, and Gord really went into orbit when he performed.
Yes.
And looking into his eyes and not even seeing the human Gord in his eyes. He was like, the majestic, nocturnal, performing entity, right? And he was, like I said, like he would go into orbit and teleport himself into this thing that existed in the air in the moment. And it was almost unsettling, honestly, to kind of make eye contact with him on that level, because I could tell he wasn't even recognizing me as another human being. It was really, it was amazing. But
just lost himself in the music.
Truly,
yeah.
He did that.
But there were also times, though. There were also times like he would say to me, do you know what it's like to be on stage thinking that this could be your last gig ever with this band? And it was like, yeah, of course, because musicians think you experience that, right? Because when you're you're working with other people, it can go to, a lot of uncomfortable places because you're so intimate in terms of sharing who you are through this art form. And so Gord was also just such a raw nerve when it came to that kind of life and thinking about how he interacted with other people. It was hard for him, and imagine, and being him too, not even within the band but outside the band, and seeing what he had to deal with fans and stuff too, and how he handled it really well. But it wasn't easy, and it took a lot out of him.
Do you think you have a more relaxed attitude towards that because you did a Rheostatics album just 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You also have the Bidiniband, and you have your finger in a bunch of different pies. So do you really worry about this is my last time with the Rheostatics, or are you comfortable or are you confident that we'll be apart for a while, but we'll come back, and then Bidiniband you'll be comfortable? Yeah.
No, for sure. But in the other, in the earlier days when we were doing those big tours, when we were always on the road, and when we were, putting out a record every year, that's when it was really tender, and that's when it was really, you're learning your life as it's happening. And now that's one of the prerogatives of just sticking around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You can tend to take it a little less personally, and it does it just sort of drips off you a little bit easier, for sure. But a shitty gig is a shitty gig, right? And that's never going to change. But for sure, and especially having a family and stuff too goes a long way. Where I remember we were playing at Hillside. It was a 25th anniversary, and we were the headliners on Saturday. Broken Social Scene were the headliners on Sunday, and there was kind of a bit of a competitiveness between us. Like, they were this new thing, and we were used to be the thing, and all this, and they're amazing people. So many of them are now my friends, but so we really wanted to have a great show. But Tim's bass amp fell over. They had the dry ice machine awkwardly placed. That sounds like such a rock star thing to say, but they did. And whenever it came on, it would engulf Martin in this kind of fog, this acrid fog.
Very cool.
That was so weird, but he couldn't see.
Really bad to see and breathe.
Very spinal tapish.
Totally. It was not good. Yeah. And so we played our set, and we were just so crestfallen because we sucked, and there was 10,000 people there or whatever. We didn't have a good gig. I remember coming down the stairs, and my daughter, who just actually walked past me, it's about her, she came up to the stairs as I was coming down from the stage, and she was crying, and I was like, oh fuck, it was so bad it affected this poor 3-year-old girl. No. But she was just upset because they'd run out of soap, and she was playing with the soap and the stand-up.
That's what they care about.
And I was like, that's put it all into perspective.
$10,000.
Or do you want these
Oreos? Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
exactly.
man. Oh,
that was
that's
a good
lovely,
lesson.
though.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say that your showbiz career sort of started when you were 11, when you got your poem about Eddie Shack published in the Toronto Sun?
That was huge, man. That was huge.
I
got a free Toronto Sun T-shirt out of that deal, and it was like, oh man, this entertainment thing, this life in the arts is pretty good. You get free shirts.
And so you is that what you wanted to be when you were a kid, a writer? And did you even think about anything else, like music or anything?
Like, music was a little bit later, but yeah, it was like 3 or 4 years later. But yeah, I want to be a writer since I was like 3. Books, because when you're a young kid, like, books are the first things that are yours, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you keep them in your room, and they're the first. So and other voices, like in your house, you're familiar, the voices of your parents and your siblings. That's your world. And then these books, there's these other voices, and you can communicate with them on that level, whole different level. So yeah, so writing books for me, like, my first book came out in 1998, but all my life I'd wanted to publish a book, to write a book. Maybe even, for sure, I think less so than making a record, although that was huge too. But that was writing came first for me, for sure.
Cool.
I like that. I like that you're like the only Canadian quadruple threat. You've been nominated for Gemini Awards,
Yeah.
Genie Awards, the Juno Awards, and the Canada Read Awards.
Yeah, Canada Reads, yeah.
Yeah.
BBC.
Like nobody else. No. So okay, not maybe not. No, as far as I know,
I don't
nobody
think
else.
so. I don't think so, though. I kind
No?
of did. I put that in my bio. I did that math and realized I was the only one. Yeah. So I just got to add some musical theater in there, and then it's like an FCOT or something.
And then
right?
you're and
That's right.
like, and then you and
Write a
then-
musical. Yeah.
Write a musical. Actually,
Well-
I might talk to you about that. I've got one in mind.
But I mean, like Derek, like it was such a revelation, because when you're growing up, like you do those tests that are like you do the test and they tell you what you're supposed to be. Maybe you didn't have them when you went to school.
No,
I don't know.
no, I
Thing you
did.
do with
did,
It's a
eh?
guidance
I'm-
counselor thing. It's
Dave. I'm old as
thing-
shit.
Okay.
It
Right.
doesn't come across, but
Okay.
I did those. I have had those
Right.
tests.
Okay. Right. So that was like, fuck, I remember Tim Vesely, you mentioned him. It was like he was going to be like a chick. They said he should be a chick sexer, which is like, what the fuck? You look,
Wow.
chicks say, yeah, all day.
Well, yeah.
No, he scored
the one-
really low.
and you-
He scored, yeah, I guess. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay.
He scored very low in those.
No, I
tests.
remember
Anyway.
watching you guys at the Horseshoe and looking at
Yeah.
Tim, thinking you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be sexing chickens. You know.
Exactly. Yeah,
You
that
know?
vibe.
Which
but
is
the thing
different.
was-
It's a different term nowadays.
I'm
Mhm.
sure. I'm sure. Well, the thing was like, so that was the thing. You grow up, and it's like you're gonna do that. You're gonna be that, and then I guess at some point I sort of realized, oh, you kind of don't have to just be that. You can be that, and if you love a bunch of different stuff and you like to do a few things, then that's okay too, right? And I think people like like Lenny Kaye was Patti Smith's guitar player, but he also wrote for the New York Rocker.
Mhm.
And so there were a few people kind of out there that did a
Yeah.
bunch of different things, and that's where I got the impulse to just sort of try stuff and the challenge, right, of trying to get good at it.
There's nothing wrong. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with changing your hat whenever you want, right? Like a lot of times,
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, it becomes a facet of their identity. This is who I
Right.
am. This is what I
Right.
do. This is it.
Right.
Right. And if I can't do that, my God, I may explode. Right.
Well,
Where,
and I even
Sorry, go
think
ahead.
like, sorry, Derek, I even think like, to a fault in a way, because, and I think that actually has made it ultimately more interesting for me in terms of my life and art and music and entertainment in Canada, because it's, I'm a bit of a moving target. And I think you do sacrifice a kind of popular appeal that way, because it's a bit harder for people to kind of, where is he now? He's over there. Oh, I got to go over there. Okay, where's he now? Oh, and that was the same was true of the Rios too. We had like 4 singers, 3 songwriters, and the shows I think were really interesting if you could get people into the room, because they'd see this living group of people who were doing all these different things. But in terms of like trying to understand the career, understand the sound, understand the approach, it was a little perplexing for people. Those that really tried were rewarded tenfold,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't. So
and it's
Yeah, and a lot.
Sorry, go ahead, Dimitri. Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm thinking that probably like 7 years ago, a lot of people thought, "What the hell are you doing, starting a community newspaper?" Because like journalism is not in the healthiest place these days. So,
yeah.
I guess you got a lot of like negative feedback or people doubting you.
No, I mean, I think people doubting me, that's been just part of the landscape for a while, for a lot of my life. But no, in fact, I don't know. People didn't. I was surprised, Dimitri, by like we went around and I went around and knocked on doors and sold 800 subscriptions before we ran our first edition, and it was cool too, because I was getting people. I'd never done this before, but a lot of it is similar to like political canvassing, right? When you knock on doors, and once you got someone beyond the threshold of their door frame, like out under the porch, you kind of had them, and you were, they would tell you about themselves, and it was neat for me because we were having conversations on their front porches about journalism. And honestly, like a couple of times, I would knock on a door. I had like these little West End Phoenix fridge magnets, but to give to people. But occasionally, I would knock on the door, and I would hear like, "It's the guy from the Rheostatics. What does he want?" And so,
Is he going to sing to us?
It was really very odd, but very lovely. And I just wanted to use my, civic appeal for good rather than evil, ultimately, right? So, but no, it was, and so the community rallied around it immediately, and we continued to ride on the momentum of our subscribers and our supporters and stuff too. And 7 years, it's crazy.
But what was the impetus behind it? Like, what made you feel that the West End Phoenix was something that was needed?
Well, yeah, Metroland bought all the community newspapers about 15 years ago, and they fired everybody, and they became these glorified flyers, right? They'd tumble up on your porch, and they were fat with, there's no content. It was all, Shoppers Drug Mart, Canadian Tire flyers. And they used them as like third advertising windows and stuff. And I thought, what if something bounced up on your porch that you just couldn't wait to read? Like, what if it was beautifully written with amazing photographers and illustrators, and you really look forward to it. And gathered like 12 of my friends around the table in the backyard on my birthday, 2015, I think, and just sort of said, "What do you think?" And they were like, and like a lot of good friends, they were like, "Go for it, Dave." And so we did, and we assembled a team, and it worked out. Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah.
How often does the West End Phoenix come out?
We're about 8 times a year.
Okay.
But, really, like, if people love music in particular, we do beautiful music stuff. Like, every summer we do this bound little book that our subscribers get. I wrote a pandemic diary one year, and then we did, like, a new wave homage one year, and then I did summer record reviews last year. But we also have a musician comic memoirist every year. Alex Lifeson was our comic memoirist the first year. Julian
he's
Taylor,
a big supporter of the West End Phoenix.
He is. Yeah, he's a beautiful guy. Yeah, and Margaret Atwood wrote us our first check. And anyways, it's been great. But not necessarily those people, because I know them. But we have 100 delivering volunteers every issue that come and pick up their papers and then head out into the community and deliver them to homes. And those are the people. I didn't know any of them before they came into our orbit. And that's a beautiful thing about. I'm sure you guys experience it too. People come to the show, strangers that you didn't know before you started to do this. And the important thing is to do it, right? Is to just do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
My God, my friend, I would love, between like the Rheos and Bidiniband and like all your writing and everything like that, I would just kill to see your Rolodex. I really would. I bet it has more names in it than probably.
You said Rolodex.
Do you know what I mean? I know.
Yeah,
seriously.
I know.
What's that?
Right.
So, Dave, what medium do you think fires you up the most?
What?
What medium do you think fires you up the most?
Oh, probably live music, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the greatest thing ever. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, I think that like that's what like how a lot of people found you in the first place.
Yeah.
For sure. 100%.
Except for the people who read your poem about Eddie Shack.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
The young son, man.
Track.
Yeah. Young son was great.
So yeah, we mentioned the Bidiniband a bunch of times. How often do you play with them these days?
Not often. Paul Linklater, our guitar player, has moved to Winnipeg, so he's not around. It's sort of a once a year thing, really, at the moment. We play every day at Hockey Day in Canada. We do the concert for that day, for that event. And that's always amazing. But that's pretty much it at the moment.
Yeah, so Bidiniband is Don Kerr on drums, Paul Linklater on guitar, and Doug Friesen on bass. So when you were writing, did you approach writing for the Bidiniband with a different mindset than writing for the Rheostatics?
Not really. I don't think so. No. I mean, sometimes with the Rheos, I would write for other singers, and Bidiniband is pretty much just me. But and I played a lot of acoustic guitar in Bidiniband. I wanted to play acoustic bass songs the way that Who had acoustic bass songs, or Small Faces, or the Kinks. That was kind of the approach.
Okay.
But no, working with great musicians is working with great musicians at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And songs are songs.
Oh man.
So,
yeah.
well, we're gonna throw to a Bidiniband song very soon, but I just want to thank you so much for hanging out with us and answering all our questions.
My pleasure.
So people of the internet, October 5th, this Thursday, Mildred's Temple Kitchen, there's a fundraiser for the West End Phoenix. Sarah Pauly is going to be there. Ken Dryden, Hockey Hall of Famer, is going to be there. And Julian Taylor is going to provide the music. Wait, what's this? Eclecticus Band. I understand that the late Paul Quarrington saw Rios as his muse, whale music of masterpiece.
Yeah, Paul was our muse. But yeah.
Absolutely. Like, you named the album Whale Music.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you. That's really nice to hear.
Yeah. So come out, support an amazing community newspaper, the West End Phoenix, published by Dave Bidini. But I chose this song. I chose the song to end the interview. "The Land Is Wild," because I remember I live in the beaches, and there's a bar there called Castro's, and the Bidiniband played there rather frequently. Until the neighbors started complaining about the volume.
Yep.
And which sucked. Yeah. Which sucked.
Yep.
Because like you were easily like the most electric thing that ever played inside Castro's. Castro's has some great musicians, but you guys are something special. And I loved it when you guys played this song. So thank you very much, Dave Bidini, for hanging out.
Dave, you're awesome. Thank you, brother.
Dave.
Like,
likewise,
honestly,
it was a pleasure.
Like,
Can I ask
seriously,
you a
brother,
question?
it was just, it was so awesome to have you here.
Can I ask you
Sure.
a question? I'm looking at this flyer.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Hang on.
That's all right.
And
Thanks.
here we go.
Good job, Craig. After I just gave you kudos
Got it.
about doing a good job,
Sorry.
go and
Sorry.
fucking shit the bed.
That's right.
What's an experiential auction? What is an experiential auction?
Well, we're not auctioning like stuff. We're auctioning palm reading by Margaret Atwood. We're
Experiences,
auctioning-
got it.
Yeah, like a studio tour with Adam McGoyan. 8 hours at Revolution Recordings. So yeah, stuff like that.
I'm
Do
sorry,
you
a
think-
palm reading by Margaret Atwood?
Yeah,
Is
palm reading
she-
for two.
Do you
Yeah.
believe
I'm there.
Do you think
Okay.
that Margaret Atwood is psychic?
She does. She thinks she's psychic.
So
You know what?
That's all that matters.
Craziest thing. Did you see that thing that they designed for her so that like it was revolutionary at the
The
time?
long pen. That's right.
The
Yeah.
long pen thing?
Yep.
How fucking
Amazing.
cool was that?
but that doesn't mean
Still-
she's
still being
psychic.
used. I don't know.
That doesn't
It's
mean
close.
she's psychic, Derek.
Yeah. That's right. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt.
That's right. Good call, Dave. Good
Yeah, right
call.
on.
Good call, my friend.
All right.
Again, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, as I say, October 5th, 7 p.m., Mildred's Temple Kitchen, 85 Hannah Avenue, number 104. Tickets available at westendphoenix.com. So
Right on.
thank you again, Dave. Thanks so much, brother, for joining us tonight.
Pleasure.
We greatly appreciate it.
Awesome. Anytime, guys.